Hey, so I've decided I'm going to take a break from woodworking for a little while, like serious woodworking, more furniture, shit I get stuck with. And one of the things I did was I've rearranged my work area a little bit, and I did an addition, something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I wanted to show off what I did. It's nothing really, but to me, it's kind of like a massive change in the way I'm doing things. So the first thing is, I totally cleaned up my bench. Yeah, so I know it's a pig pen still, but I rearranged. I took all the crap that was on this wall here, and all the crap that was on the table here, and got rid of it. So you hear, there's a fire waiting to happen right there. Yoink. Cigarettes over there. So I have my clear tubing, a whole bunch of color. I used to have a really cool color rack that I built, but it was too big, so I got rid of it. So one of the things I got the other day was an oxygen concentrator. Now this is just the beginning of the oxygen concentrator project. So what I'm doing is, so I have this oxygen concentrator only does 5 liters a minute, which isn't enough to run my high pressure torch. So this is my high pressure torch. This is my Phantom, my GTT Phantom. Now this torch here is my Carlisle Mini CC. Now that's the torch that I started blowing glass with literally 20 plus years ago. So I'm running, the Phantom is still getting run off the bottles over here. But now I'm using both torches. And this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I ended up having to make, I made a little bracket. So this is the original torch stand. This is the original torch stand that came with the Carlisle, which works just fine. There's really nothing wrong with it. This is a great bead making torch. And actually my buddy made a huge bong with it one time. Which was really impressive. Like, he was even impressed he was able to make such a big piece with such a little torch. Now, the Mini CC is actually a nice little torch. If you want to get into blowing glass, you can pick these up used for 150 bucks. I think when I bought this torch, it was like 2 something. Because now they're going for like 300 bucks. There's a couple other GTT makes, it's called Bobcat. But if you're going to buy a torch, I highly recommend just getting the links right off the bat. So the oxygen concentrator has a couple problems, especially the way I have it set up right now, which is I'm just running directly off the oxygen concentrator. The oxygen concentrator does not like to be turned off, so I always have oxygen running through this torch. And not for nothing, this torch is a little beat up, so this torch is a little beat up, so my propane doesn't actually turn all the way off unless I really crank it. So this has positive and negative effects on me. One is I burned the piss out of my hand a couple times, not remembering that there is a lot of heat still coming out of the end of this. The positive to that is I have a pilot light all the time. So this torch, when I'm in here, is going to be lit a little bit, and like I said, unless I crank the propane all the way off. But I still have to leave the oxygen on. And I have to leave it on a good bit. The other thing I don't like about this torch is it gets insanely hot. I don't know why it gets ridiculously hot, but this thing gets so hot that I actually used to have a heat shield around it so I wouldn't touch it. Or like bump my hand into it because it would burn me. That's how hot it would get, and that's probably why this valve doesn't work right. But, so the original game plan here, or the game plan here, is to actually run this torch and this torch off of, I have a manifold here underneath the bench, that has has 2 bibs in it for an additional torch. I was originally going to get a hand torch. I was going to turn this into a hand torch, but it doesn't get a small enough, sharp enough flame. The hand torch is going to be something I get at a later date, probably a Smith's little torch. So, why did I do this the way I did it? Well, it's actually pretty awesome for me. I've never done it before. I had never done this before. I'd never fiddled with it this way. Once I bought the Phantom, I was going to sell this one, and I said, you know what, I'm a hoarder, so I kept it. Really glad I did. This little torch does about 75% of what I need to do when I'm doing like Christmas ornaments or beads or prep work. Like if I need to just do something real little, I can just use this torch. Free oxygen. Propane I can buy anywhere. Free oxygen with the concentrator. I'm going to get a compressor. It's just not right. It's not in the budget right now, but it is what it is. It is right now working perfectly for what I needed to do, which is just be here. So let's crank this one up. I can't adjust the exposure on the camera and work the torch at the same time. The camera's actually really far away because I melted my GoPro. And I may have done damage to the camera that I'm using right now. I didn't destroy my GoPro, but I sure as hell didn't do it any favors. So the cool thing, like I said, is, well, there's a couple things. I have a pilot light now all the time, and I was watching a scientific worker using a lathe, and they have pilot lights. They have a pilot light on their lathe, so when they need to light a torch, they just and it lights. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And you know what? Damn it if it's not really cool. Now this torch is adjustable somewhat. I need to work on my mount a little bit so I can get some adjustment out of it. It also has a ball mount here. On this torch, there's a ball mount, so you can move it a couple degrees in either direction. And it works pretty good for that. But what I was trying to do, let me turn this torch up. Now this is the biggest problem with this torch is that's the biggest usable flame that I can get out of this torch. And I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but I'm pushing the oxygen concentrator to its maximum max. It can't put out any more oxygen. And as a matter of fact, it surges, which isn't really a huge deal, but it's something that I'm not crazy about. If I had a surge tank, it would probably eliminate some of that, but I don't need a surge tank because I'm getting a compressor. I'm getting a compressor and another generator. So this problem will go away when I do that. So now I have a pilot, right? I have a pilot, and I have the ability to have 2 separate, if I do it just right, I can actually, the flames kind of, not 100%, and that's part of the mount problem here, is they almost completely intersect. So my game plan is so I can have, you know, a decent sized flame so I can have a decent sized flame. Now, one of the cool things about running this way, and I should probably move the camera, but I'm not going to, is I have 2 separate flames going on. I've got a really, I don't want to run I'm running out of bottled oxygen, so I don't want to run this one too much. This run, I'll run all the time, I don't care. It's oxygen at this point is free, it's coming out of the air. This flame is considerably different than this flame. Now I know that I can adjust this torch to produce whatever, with the temperature of this flame. The temperature and characteristics of this flame can be reproduced by this torch. But the cool thing is, I don't need to. If I run this torch Well, that's another thing. This is like short attention span theater. This torch produces completely different flame characteristics than this torch. So, and I found that out by accident, futzing around with this Triple Passion. I've always fought with Triple Passion, Amber Purple, any of the striking colors I've always had problems with. And I always knew it was because I couldn't get the correct flame out of this torch as easily. Like it's just, this torch actually works so good that it gets too hot. It gets too hot all the time for certain things. Now I can adjust it to make it work right. I'm lazy, and this torch produces the flames that I need to strike this color pretty easily. Like I can strike this like that. Boom, there's my strike. You know, and there it is. To get this flame characteristic out of this torch, I gotta fiddle, and it's not worth it. Especially if I'm doing something where I don't want to strike the whole thing. So if I'm making a bead and I only want to strike half the back of the bead, but I want to finish the front of the bead, I can work a piece in the flame. So I'm striking the back here, and I'm finishing the front. So the back never fully cools, but it's also not hot. It's not this heat. So right there is where the flames coalesce. This end is bright red, this end is dull red, because that's where the flames are coalescing, joining, which is really cool. It was like an unexpected, it was a totally unexpected thing to happen. The other thing that this does, or the other really cool thing I can do, and I've been fiddling with this a little bit more and more, because I just did this like 2 or 3 weeks, like 2 weeks ago, is I can have 2 totally different flames at the same time. So when I'm doing a bead, or anything, when I'm doing a bead, because that's the vast majority of what I do, I can have this one set, and it's not even, I highly doubt it's going to show up on camera, but so I can have this torch set for a pinpoint, like 2mm needle flame, which this torch will not reproduce, and have this torch running like this. So if I'm doing something, I can get the glass hot here, right? So I have my needle point here. I can get the glass hot, and then I can take and put I can put a design on this glass here with just the needle point. So I actually grabbed a striking color here. And then I can immediately just go right to this bigger flame. Now, that's what foot pedals are for. Before anybody says, well, you just got to get a set of foot pedals. 100%, that's what foot pedals are for. But I don't have foot pedals, and I am not spending. Right now, I'm a little cash poor. I'm not spending $500 or $600 on foot pedals. I'm not spending $500 or $600 on foot pedals when I have a torch right here. Boom! And now I went right from my needle point flame right into a bigger, bushier, heat more material flame, for the sake of argument. Also, the advantage is, one of the advantages of this flame and this torch, the secondary torch here, is it's not as hot. So a lot of the colors I deal with, because I like to do flowers and goofy stuff like that, I'm dealing with a lot of crayon colors. Opaque colors that have a tendency to boil. So I can go from my design here in this flame. That flame is so little it won't even do what I want it to do. Now the one downside to this is, and I have found out the hard way multiple different times so far, is that I gotta remember, I have to watch where I put my hands, because if I put my hands in the wrong spot, wow, then it smells like burnt pork in here. So again, I've got this little teeny tiny needle flame, and I can just go wink. And then immediately go right into the big flame, right into the bigger flame. Now, it's over here. I've been flinging stuff around a little bit today like a drunk monkey. The other nice thing is, so I have this big flame going the whole time. And so this flame is cooler, it's way bigger. And then I still have my needle flame going down here. So I can heat this piece up. I can keep this one hot in the back flame, which is also kind of important. And then I can go back to the needle. Now if I tried that, you saw me, I just took that piece, this piece, darn it. I just took this piece of glass off the table, cold. It wasn't garaged, anything. And I'm able to work this piece of glass because I have 3 different flames, or 2 different flames going on. And I don't need to worry about it popping on me because it's a lot easier. I don't have to set, I'm not fiddling with the torch while I'm doing it, right? So under normal circumstances, I would be playing around with torch knobs when I don't really need to. And then back into the big flame. It's melting. Now granted, this torch does not get as hot as this one does yet. Now, when the time comes and I get my, get the compressor, get the oxygen compressor. Now, here's the other thing. Boink, boink, boink. I don't need this torch right now, so I can just turn it off. I'm not doing a huge crazy meld in. Actually, the colors that I just used right this second are striking colors that I've used in this flame before with this torch, and I know what flame this torch needs. Another thing with this Carlisle is it's really good for fuming gold. Not so much silver, but gold, it fumes like really well. This torch does fume gold. Obviously, any torch will fume gold. It's just a matter of the skill of the glass blower to it, and how well you know your equipment. But I can, now, here's the really cool part. So I've got this thing going here. Now this is the whole. This is the other neat thing, right? Boom, 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 boom. Now I got all kinds of heat, including the extra torch. So now I'm back to a full heat. So I can really throw some heat into this stuff really fast. And then immediately take the heat away and go back to a smaller flame without doing anything. And like I said, I totally understand that that's what foot pedals are for. I don't have foot pedals. I'm not buying foot pedals anytime soon. Oxygen concentrator takes priority. So, I'm like super duper happy. The other thing I busted out are these mashers, which I threw them aside a couple years ago because I couldn't get them to work right, and then I just went nuts the other day and fixed them. I didn't go nuts, I just fixed them. So another nice thing about this torch is, being that it's a little bit more, it's slower because it doesn't get as hot. I can flame polish stuff with a little bit more. I can flame polish a larger area with a little bit more control than I have with this torch. It's just easier to do it that way. Now, like I said before, this is a striking color that I'm using. And the strike in this I forget exactly which color. Well, one of them is caramel with triple purple or triple passion, and then the other is like a red kind of, I don't know. If you do it wrong, it looks like monkey shit brown. No, not really. It's like a livery kind of. It's not a very attractive color. Kind of like when you were a kid and you mixed all the colors in your watercolor thing together, and you got like that really kind of gross reddish kind of brown color. That's what color that is. I've yet to get it to work right. So, we're going to just flatten this out a little bit more. I don't want to push it too hard or too much because I just flame polished all the vitrification out of it, so there's no more. It's nice and clear, and optically it looks nice. So now I can just go. I'm still using the little flame. I don't need the oxygen bottle to do this. I don't need high pressure. I don't need bottle gas. I'm good. But I want a short flame again. I did notice, the one thing I did notice is that having the other fire next to the Phantom here, I used to, when I would light the Phantom normally, I would go propane center oxygen, main oxygen. For whatever reason, I assume it has to do with low pressure, or pressure, air pressure. All right. You can see here. Oops. Now also, I have a nice back flame. Right, so I can finish stuff however I need to. I'm going to garage that piece real quick because it's a nice little piece. Now I have my hot, so I need a wider flame here for just a second. Get a little bit straighter. Now, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to turn this I'm going to turn this one off just for a split second there, just a second. And now I'm right back to a needle point. Now you can get a needle point with the Carlisle. I mean, for me to say that you can't get a needle point with the Carlisle is a falsehood. But I've noted it's just a matter of it's so much easier. It's so much easier to do it. It's so much easier to get a needle point on this torch. Just carving that up real quick. Threw a little bit of annealing in it so it doesn't crack when I grab it to throw it into the thing, into the kiln. Heat my tool up. The other thing I did was put a piece of angle iron right there on my bench. Back to the needle point to take the punt mark off. We got a nice bead here that's gonna, it's absolutely gonna amber purple up the way it's supposed to. Into the kiln it goes. So that was just kind of what I wanted to show. I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit shorter. I've got a whole bunch of long ass videos I'm going to put in the can. I had some problems with the hard drive on my computer. Shocking, I know. Hopefully this one will turn out. I'm trying a new angle. Now, the only downfall of this is this one's always on, which isn't really a downfall at all. I mean, literally, it's a pilot light. You know. So I always have kind of a pilot for the big torch, and it's just literally, I just turn it down like that, and you can just barely see it. You can't run a Phantom like this. If you run a Phantom like that, you'll weld the front of the Phantom shut. This thing, I don't care about too much. I mean, I don't want to ruin it, obviously, but it can run a much lower flame. And if I was doing soft glass, this flame that you probably can't even see on video, it would be great. So, I mean, it does do a needle point, but the needle point on this one's like way out here. It's like right about there. The needle point on this is it's a much nicer needle point. That's all. So there you go. Like and subscribe. Blah 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 blah. I want to get some more glass blowing videos. I want to change my angles. I want to build a camera mount so it shoots directly down on the, because that's the best way to view, is either from my angle, which would mean I'd have to put a headpiece on, which I don't want to do, or to shoot directly from above. And I think I'm going to build a mount to mount the camera way up high and shoot down. There we go.